Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Winter-Martin, class of 1999. Welcome to the Finding Your Sequel panel. As we come together this weekend to celebrate this amazing constellation of Williams women, I think we can all agree that women have been one hell of a sequel for Williams. So I have the honor of introducing this panel not just as someone whose personal brand may scream midlife crisis, but also as a proud member of the We Lead Advisory Board. Yvonne Howe gave a much better introduction than I could, a great ad for it already, but We Lead is our women's philanthropy initiative, really trying to close one of the last remaining gender gaps at Williams, which is the number of alumni fund gifts at the leadership level of 2,500 or more. So at some point this weekend, I would encourage you to chat with me or one of the other We Lead members, or you can scan the QR code on your bookmark, learn more about it. We've made a lot of progress over the past few years, but we still could use some help getting over the finish line, because together we can really make Williams' next sequel even better. So who better to talk about possibilities and impact than our speakers? Ennett Williams, class of 1983, and Lee Coles, class of 1993. Welcome. They will.
Okay. Oh, can you hear me? How's that? Okay, great. Lee, thanks for the introduction. I am beyond honored to be here today with all of you amazing people. Did anyone get to go see the keynote last night? Oh my gosh. So I for those of you who weren't here, Kristen Anderson Lopez sang Let It Go from the movie Frozen, which she wrote with her husband. I was bawling. And so that's not going to happen to you guys in this session. Your makeup will be intact if you're going to do the headshots later on today. But I do have something really exciting and fun for you. You get to meet my dear, beautiful friend, Ennett Williams, today. Yes. So I had the pleasure, go ahead and, I had the pleasure of interviewing Ennett for my podcast, Career Sequel. And the title of the episode was When Your Nonlinear Career Path is the Perfect One. And it wound up being one of the most downloaded and shared and listened to episodes of my podcast of the year. And I think it's just because it resonates with so many people, resonates with so many women, but also because of Ennett, who you're going to meet. Because Ennett talks in stories, and she also talks in sound bites, which I call Ennethisms. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to interview Ennett so that you can hear her inspirational story. And so today you're going to learn a little bit about what a proper career path looks like. And you're going to come away with some strategies for taking on the next phase of your life. And also, I just want you to also come away just feeling a little bit more empowered, feeling more confident and excited about your next phase, what's going to happen for you next. So first of all, can you tell me here who in this room is looking to do something new in their life? Okay. Who in this room is looking to step out of the paid workforce? Okay. Anyone in this room who's looking to return to work after a career break? Okay. What about, has anyone here decided that now it's the time to turn your attention to yourselves and to do something meaningful and fulfilling for you? All right. Okay. Well, first of all, you're not alone, as you can see in this room, and also the stats tell us that you're not alone. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, recent data said that 70% of people who are working right now, they are looking to make a career change. So only 14% of people surveyed said, I'm in a job that I love and I'm staying put. And then the other statistic that's kind of interesting is that over the course of your life, we're supposed to have at least 12 different jobs. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I think that number is a conservative one because what they once referred to as the 40-year career, which is basically, starting off work, sometime in your 20s, retiring around the age of 65, that is now morphed into the 60-year career. I don't know if you heard about, there's been some buzz about this. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple months ago that was talking about the concept of the 60-year career. Just the fact that now we're living longer, we're living healthier lives, and that's changing the face of the workforce. So not only are we working for longer, but we're taking breaks when we need to. And thank you, coronavirus, because it's not as, people are more used to the idea of taking breaks. Another thing that's been coming up with these longer careers is we are looking to do things that are more fulfilling to us. If we are going to keep working for 60 years, we want to be doing things that are inspiring to us, that we want to be doing things that we want to be giving back and feeling fulfilled. So that nature of work is shifting as well. But is there a correct way to pursue a career? When you're a child, everyone asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's like a fun question, I'm going to be a fireman or whatever. You can say anything, people are so excited. And then when you're in high school, it starts to get a little scary. I have a son who's a 20-year-old, a daughter who is a senior in high school, and they break out into hives when people ask, what do you want to be? Because especially in high school, when you're 16, you have to figure it out. You have to know when you're applying to college, especially if you're not going to be so lucky to go to a liberal arts school like Williams, so you have to figure it out. So let's look at what a proper career should look like, right? Proper career path? Okay, you start off and you decide what you want to be. Okay, you major in something in college, right? You choose your major. You choose your major when you're 15 years old, right? Where would you be right now? Right now, if you picked if you stuck with that major that you picked when you were 15. Okay, so you pick that major when you're 15. You go to school, and then you study that. And then you graduate, you get your first job in that career, right? And then maybe you have a choice of a couple different jobs within that career, and you keep working your way up, right? Is that what your career has looked like? Does that look like you? Okay. So here's what I think a proper career path looks like. We can base it off even, my career path. So, don't like math, don't like science. I'm going to major in English, all right? Get to school and, I like psychology now, so I'll major in psychology. Have a great experience in psychology, but I am burned out when I graduate, so I'm going into healthcare, okay? I'm in healthcare for a year. Oh my God, I miss psychology so much. Okay, so I'm working, realize I gotta get a degree because there's a glass ceiling. So I will get my PhD. So I get my PhD. Get out, I don't know I could go academic, I'll do consulting, I'll go over here, and get pregnant. I'm gonna stay at home, okay? I get offered a job, but the cost of the babysitter doesn't even cover that job, so I stay at home for 15 years. Decide I need to go back to work, so I become the head coach of my kids' high school cross-country team for 4 years. Okay, so I do that, and then I, oh, that's a sad little dip, I guess. But anyway, and then I decide I want to become a life coach, so I do that, and then I start building a business. And anyway, really, this is what a proper career path looks like. It's one that's filled with twists and turns and stops and starts and backing up and moving forward and wondering, oh my God, what the hell did I just do? And did I waste my time? And what is going on? But as my psychology honors thesis at Williams College, Saul Kassan said, he said our lives are more like billiard balls than guided missiles. And it's so true. It's so true. I found that really when I work with my clients, I tell them that if you have a career, if you wind up going down a path and you realize you love it, that's a win. But if you wind up going down a path and you realize you can't stand it, that's a win too. Either way, you're getting closer to where you want to be. So today you're going to hear a story that's very twisty and turny, and it ends in a dream job. And it's the story of Enith Williams, with chapters that include moving back and forth from New York City to Jamaica, going back and forth from nonprofit work to Wall Street, and it includes a career break. She threw a career break in there, and finally taking a leap from the banking industry into the world of reparative justice. So Enith used her financial industry expertise to find the Reparations Finance Lab, and the RFL is dedicated to researching innovative solutions to racial disparities that stem from an era of enslavement and continue to this day. And it works with financial institutions and city authorities to develop programs to address the needs of communities of color. Okay, before I introduce you to the effervescent Enith, I know this has been a big buildup, but I've got to tell you that our friendship was born on LinkedIn. Okay, and you guys laugh, but this is huge. I want all of you on LinkedIn, by the time we're out of here. You're going to be on there, like, we're all going to be friends and connected on LinkedIn. It's going to be great, okay? So listen to this. So Williams had posted an article about Enith on LinkedIn, and I was on LinkedIn and I was scrolling through, and there's this picture of Enith, and she has this big smile on her face, and she has this big purple and gold umbrella that's open behind her, and it's exactly like the one I got for my 25th reunion, and it did rain that whole entire reunion. So I read the article and I thought, oh my gosh, Enith sounds like the coolest person, and like she looks like the coolest person. We have the same umbrella. So I messaged her on LinkedIn, and yesterday I went back and I found our messages together, and it took our conversation. I was so surprised to see our conversation took place 1 year ago this week. Okay, and this is, yes? Destiny, okay. So Enith and I are going to reenact a conversation that we had on LinkedIn.
Good morning. Isn't Lee amazing? She's so cool.
No, you're the coolest. Okay, May 17th, 2022, 8:08 p.m. Hi, Enith. I couldn't go to bed before I, reached out to her. Hi, Enith. I loved your inspirational story about your career change, parentheses, gorgeous photo, too. I shared it and would love having you in my network. All the best, your fellow EEF, Lee Coles, 93.
Okay, so May 17th at 8:09 p.m. Just a little past my bedtime, almost. And thank you. May 17th at 8:13, my brain kicks in and says, oh, wait, somebody just reached out to you on LinkedIn. And I wrote, pretty awesome to have made it to the alumni page, right? Let's keep in touch. I'm appreciative of your work with helping folks to transition and reposition themselves. Clearly, I read her LinkedIn profile. My story, as you can see, has been full of twists and turns. And without planning or even much direction, I have ended up with a much more interesting life than I could have imagined when I graduated from Williams. Although, in retrospect, there were hints that was definitely going to color outside the lines. But those are stories for another time. Thanks again for reaching out.
May 19th, 2022, so this is 2 days later, 4:16 p.m. I was thinking of you yesterday when I walked my dog in the rain with my Williams umbrella. Would you like to get together over Zoom? I'd love to talk to you in person. Let me know if there's a good time over the next week to connect for 20 minutes. There's nothing I'd rather do than hang out with an inspirational EEF. Cow emoji.
May 19th, 5 p.m. I do live on social media. It's occupational hazard. Lee, that would be awesome. Let's look at time after next Wednesday. I have a grant proposal due. Thursday afternoon at 2 or 4 p.m. Could work, or Friday before 2 p.m. Totally looking forward to connecting.
Okay, and the rest is history. Here we are. Okay, so that conversation we had over Zoom went really well. And I was talking to Enith, and I thought, we clicked immediately. I thought she was amazing, and I asked her to be on my podcast, which she graciously agreed to do. And then Wendy Webster Coakley, who organized this whole conference, just happened to be listening to that episode, and we're here because of that. Yeah, that is why we're here. So anyway, we're going to take a seat now. I'll let Enith relax, and we're going to kick off our talk with an Enithism. We're going to structure our talk around these Enithisms. So, if you want to write these down, these are all good. Okay, here we go. The path you take is the right path for you, where you are in your evolution on this planet. That's our first Enithism. Enith, your career has involved so many different paths and twists and turns. Can you tell us a little bit, give us a snapshot of your non-linear career path?
Okay, check the time. So, getting out of Williams, I had no idea what Williams meant, what you were to do. I am from an immigrant family, and sort of woke up one morning in the hills of Jamaica, and by that afternoon, I was in New York City. And coming to a place like Williams was just not in the path. And I had no one in my family, even though there were folks with, immigrants that go to New York, you kind of work your way through, local colleges. No one had gone away to a place like Williams. And no one had gone and navigated the possibilities of a place like Williams. So there was no one to guide me. I had a couple of opportunities, as you do when you finish Williams. One was a fellowship. I studied politics. And the other was, the guys from Wall Street would come and interview, and there was that. And I had a boyfriend in Jamaica. So I chose a boyfriend.
Of course, yes.
My parents, God rest their soul, were just like, what? They knew enough to know that that was not the right choice. But it was more than a boyfriend. It was more want to go back to my country, even though I didn't realize it, to find myself. Chichi had actually gone to the University of the West Indies for my junior year abroad because Williams was a little discombobulating, if you can understand. And so I said, if to go back into another American institution where there's Jamaica, there's work to be done, which is what my father always said, go back home and help your country. And there was this boyfriend. And so I went back to Jamaica, and because I went to Williams, I started a women's construction collective because I couldn't drive a nail, but I could write a proposal. And this was a nonprofit to train women from Central Kingston in construction skills because construction skills, it was a non-traditional career, and it was a path that was long story. So that was the first non-linear squiggly. And I remember, getting called by the choral fellowship to say, aren't you coming? I said, no, I want to just defer for a year. I want to do this thing, and, I want to work with these women and all of that. Anyway, long story short, got married, kind of woke up and said, okay, you're now married. What exactly are you doing with your life? And said to the young husband, I think we should go back to America. And came back and actually ended up in Washington, D.C. Saying, didn't want to go to California to do a fellowship with a young husband. Let me go to D.C. My parents lived in New York. And I had William's friends who were there. And they sort of said, come over here, the water is warm here. And there was a cricket club for my husband. This is like... And I ended up working at a law firm, right? Because I was going now, I was like, okay, I'm going to just do the law thing because I had wised up enough to realize that that was a Williams career. That was well worth pursuing. And I went off and, worked at this very prestigious law firm as a legal assistant, and then the path would be, then you take your little stats and you go off. But I had another squiggly, there's something wrong with my brain, and I got drawn into another nonprofit. And this one was building shared housing for poor families in Northern Virginia. Still couldn't drive a nail, but had this passion for community. And it's like, I'm not ready to go to the law school thing. I'm not feeling this. I just wasn't feeling it. What I was feeling was working with community. So I went off and did some really good work. We actually built some really, really nice housing in Fairfax County using tax credits and all of that stuff. And I had my first baby. And so on, and so on, and so on. And in the middle of all of that, had another baby, and then the marriage went sour. I don't know if anyone's had that, but it's devastating, right? And I had a choice to make, right? Stay in a marriage that was really sour, or, figure it out. And what I do when I need to figure it out is I go back home to Jamaica. So I packed my 2 kids up and moved back to Jamaica. And I have this weird, I can't call it luck, but just this weird way of organizing my life. And I kind of landed, and folks like, "You're going to Jamaica, what you going to do?" I said, "I'll figure it out." But I did end up working with the Minister of Finance, because I went to Williams, right? And I ended up managing just, some really interesting government financing projects, and got an insight into government financing, got enormous responsibilities. Now that I look back, yikes. But my 2 children are really happy. I was more comfortable. The secret to raising children in Jamaica is, even though I didn't have extended family, by then my parents were deceased, you can have help. And that made all the difference. So did that, and then my daughter was in high school, and I again had another moment like, she needs to go to university, and I don't know if you're going to be able to do that from Jamaica. And so I had another one of those brain seizures, I call them, and said, I've got to go back to America. And that's how I ended up on Wall Street. So I'm going to stop there so Lee can have the other segment of this. Mm-hmm. What's your next entitism?
The next, well, first of all, as you were making all these decisions, were you ever worried that you were making the wrong decision? I mean, you reach this point where you think, I can go, I can stay, nonprofit versus Wall Street.
Yes and no. Of course, you're petrified with every decision that you make. And I was making a decision for 3 people. And again, no path, right? There's no one who had done anything remotely like what I was doing, including moving back to Jamaica with 2 young children. Because once Jamaicans leave, the idea is you stay here, right? Land of opportunity, all of that. And I remember going back and be like, why are you back? It's like, folk are trying to get there. So yeah, there were lots of doubt, but also I think I always have an inner certainty in a weird way that my path is my path, and I wrestle with it. I really wrestle with it. It's not like, very glib, like I'm just going to do this. But once I'm a master walker, so when I have really rough things to figure out, I'll, do a couple weeks of meditative walking and talking to myself, and if you see me, you're like, okay, stay from that lady. But that's just all doing the plotting, right? And doing the strategizing and calming myself down and reminding myself of all the other things that I had done that hadn't been done that had worked out. And so the worry and the concern would get smaller and smaller and smaller, then I'd buy the tickets.
Yeah, and I think also the point is there isn't a wrong path. Like even what you maybe thought was the wrong move, you learn things and develop skills that you could use at the next iteration, or a few iterations down, all of a sudden you have these skills you can pull out of your pocket, things that you didn't know would come in handy.
Like working for the government of Jamaica, the Minister of Finance, right? I studied, I studied poli-sci, I had to take econ classes, so I knew enough. But finance wasn't my big thing. But working for the ministry, working on, government budgeting, you pick up a few things, right? Mm-hmm. And when I came back to New York with a teenager and a preteen, I needed to make money. It's like, okay, this nonprofit stuff may not be the thing to do right now. And actually, that's another interesting story, the Williams Network, right? Please do not overlook the Williams Network. A friend of a friend of a friend said, you need to make money, and Merrill Lynch was just looking for what they call mid-career bankers. You should go down there, and my Williams connection, and I'm being very, very straight about this and very blatant about it because it's a very important part of the path, right? If I had just go onto the website and applied, it wouldn't have worked. And that's another piece of the stories, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to point out is just the power of connections. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the power of second and third connections. You think maybe that the people who you see every day, who you know really well, who really know you very well, that they are going to be the most powerful connections for you and make the most powerful changes in your life, and that's actually not true. Okay, the people you see every day or you talk to all the time, you're speaking the same language, you share the same thoughts. When you look at that second level connection, meaning your friend's friend who you don't know, they are a part of a completely different group of people who are thinking different thoughts, who are hanging out with people who you've never met before, who are experiencing all new things. Those people are so valuable to get to know. And then the third, if you look at the next level out, the people who, it's your friends, your friend's friend's friend. That third level, like the further out you get, when you actually can connect with that person, that's when your world gets kind of blown. And I feel like this conference, we have an opportunity to get connected with people outside our group, outside our circles, and then outside those circles as well. So I want to read another anathism, okay? If someone offers to introduce you to someone, even if you think it's unlikely or if you think it's not matching up with what you want to do, go. Even if it seems that the path is not clear, you're not seeing the link. That's not for you to decide. That's for the universe to decide.
Yeah. This connection, right? This person said, you need to go and speak to Eve. And I never really saw myself as a Wall Street banker, but I knew they made money in Wall Street. And I was like, okay, put my clothes on, take a shower, put on a nice dress, and I'll go and talk to this person. And it changed my life, right? They actually do make you take a math test to go into the banker program. And you do have to take a lot of exams. So, I think the imposter syndrome thing wasn't around that. But it was that connection. It was that person saying, you're mid-career, you have said to me, I need to do something transformative, i.e., get these kids through high school into university and not do it on a nonprofit salary. I need to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And this dear, dear friend took me seriously. And she's a dear friend now, but actually that's another story. I met her because I applied for a job that she had put in. I know I said I was going to do nonprofits, but it was like, oh my God, I need to work. And so I'd written in and said, in my mind, I'll just do this thing, short term while I continue to look for work. And she called me in. I went in and she said, I'm not going to hire you, And I said, so why'd you call me in? And she said, I'm looking at your resume, and what do you want to do? And so I gave her the whole story, like, I really need to make money, but, if you could just hire me for this little admin position, at least I can, do things until I figure it out, because I was, really had just come back from Jamaica to New York. And she said, no, tell me, so I told her the story. She said, here is an opportunity. And she called, and I went for this date that she set up to chat with someone, and the rest is history. So it was also that non-linear sort of, this wasn't me, but I saw, when you read a position, you're like, oh, I have this. I could go, I could do this. And because it related to some work I had done before I'd left New York, and I said, oh, this is easy. But it was just that, listening to the universe saying, write this person, and second, also saying, she's saying something, and I should not doubt and double doubt. I should just go meet Eve. This is just, yeah.
Okay, before we take questions, I want to end with one other anathism. Don't look back with regret. Look back at the opportunities you took and be comfortable with that.
Sometimes I have to remind myself about that one, because sometimes, there could be room for I woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda done differently, different outcomes. Certainly, I'm class of '83, so we were getting to that stage where we were beginning to really look at what is it they're calling this now? If it's 60-year career, whatever the next, and you looked at what could seem as if there were missed opportunities, but I have a recent anecdote, which you haven't heard, is it's only when you look back that you see the pattern. It's only, and I'm like, but everything that I have done has led me to creating this nonprofit. Every single experience that I've had, from going back to the University of Westminster my junior year, going back to work with women, marrying this Jamaican, working and learning and living in a country, a post-colonial country that's really struggling with not just its identity, but its financial future, and just living that. I mean, literally working with the ministry and trying to figure, we have to get salaries in the bank by the 25th of the month, and there's no money, right? And you have to get really creative about that. But you also think, why are we so poor when we're so rich? We have minerals, we have the most beautiful country in the world, we generate extreme wealth. Why is the country so poor? So all of those experience, and then going to work at Wall Street, where there's real money, and seeing the impact of what money can do and how capital can really change outcomes, and how capital can create its own narrative that then it fulfills, right? Because capital can decide that AI is a thing, right? And invest enormous resources into creating this thing that no one knows but everybody's scared about. So those experiences led me to think that I could have a different model for delivering economic justice to the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. So how could I have regrets about that path?
Yeah. Anna, thank you. And yeah. How are we doing on time for questions? Okay, we have a couple minutes. Does anyone have a question for, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, you're both fabulous and inspirational. Truly, thank you so much. And I'm class of '89, Jill Schaub. I have followed a very linear path. There is no wrong path, but I guess my question for you is, how did you muster up the courage to be so brave for someone who has taken a very traditional, straight and narrow path? As I venture forward and think about new opportunities, I'd love to hear some, how do you have the courage to take risks?
So, lots of stories. So my grandparents were Windrush immigrants to the UK. And the Windrush generation were folks who went to the UK after World War II to rebuild the country. And how did they know how to get to England? There'd be a news ad in the paper, England is open, come. And my grandfather sold a cow to get the money to pay the passage to go to England, a place that he's never been, no one had been, and so he got on a boat and went to England. Now, you know, my parents, my mom married my dad, who was a recluse, and everyone was shocked when they got married, but my mother was a beautiful lady. And he had sisters in the US, but he had no interest in coming to the US. And my mother tells even better stories than I do. And she said, you know, I was washing clothes, and there was a letter in his pants from his sister. And she had written and said, she heard he had gotten married, and, you know, now that you're married, you really need to come to America. And here's, you know, whatever, some money. And he just took the money and put the letter in his pants. And my mother saw the letter, got the letter, wrote to my Aunt Muriel, and I love this. We had the letter for years. Dear Mrs. Spencer, my name is Jenny Gale. I am Mr. Martin's, they were very formal with each other, wife. I would like to come to America. And so you know, it's not bravery, but it's coming from a particular place where opportunity and going for something because the alternative is pretty dire. It's sort of a little bit of the DNA. And then, of course, you know, there's the whole history of how we even got to the Caribbean. And so if there's any bravery, it's from those folks, right? But, you know, when you're telling the story about granddad selling the cow, you know, to go to the UK and, you know, taking 7 children and going over, and I remember he died first and then my grandmother, and, you know, we all got a check. And I was like, sold a cow and 27 children, and we all got a, you know, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and we all got a bequest. Like, who am I not to be brave, you know? Yeah.
Any other?
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm class of '89 and '90. And I was interested in, while you were talking, kind of the role of hope in your story, because I'm a child psychologist. Now's not a great time. Well, I mean, it's an important time to be in that field, but it's a tough time. And I was thinking about how hope might have played a role as you went through and made all the choices, and if you could speak to that.
I must say, I'm very grateful that I have the gift of congenital happiness. And this was often said of me, not in a complimentary way, "Why are you always so happy?" So there's a little bit of that personality of just, seeing things. But I also remember, and this is a true story, because my parents, while they were migrating, we stayed behind. My cousins would pay me to cry. On Only cousins can torture you, right? But that said to me, there's a deep, deep well of pain, right? Because they would just say, "Come, Annette, 10 pence, cry." And I just weep, right? So the whole piece is this congenital happiness. And the other piece is evidence of hope being rewarded. The cow, the letter. We pile all of our experiences and you look back and you see the pattern. You think about all the ways and all the times you had been really scared and thought things wouldn't work out. And I think there's a saying, you've survived 100% of all your worst days. And, it's, my children are older now, and it was really tough as teenagers, as they, would cycle in and dealing with all the post-divorce stuff. And they had some really, really rough times. And neither of them is congenitally happy as I am. So one of the challenges I had was to understand the depth of, their worry and their anxieties, and respect that, but also try to teach them, have conversations about the reward of being hopeful, and that you can get through and you will get through, and trust me, it's going to be better. And it sounds really hokey, especially, when people are dealing with really deep, clinical issues and all of that, because I also have no challenge and no problem with, going to the professionals, right? But I think there's stories that you tell yourselves and there's stories that you talk about at the dinner table. And one of them, for me, has always been the stories of hope and hope rewarded. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jen Rainey, class of '93 with Lee.
Hey.
I'm a family medicine physician in a community health center in Rhode Island. But I'm curious, kind of a two-part question. One is a little bit of looking back, and I think in your story, part of what I feel is, how did you know? And so I kind of wonder, what were your North Stars? And sort of when you looked at the universe and was like, I need an answer, I need some guidance, what, and when you look back and look at those patterns, can you identify what those North Stars were? And then the follow-up is, one of the things I feel like I've lacked in my career is mentorship. And I feel that as a woman, you're 10 years ahead of me, you're a minority woman, I can't imagine you had much in mentorship. And where do you see that role, and how do you look at providing that now from the position where you are with a lot of wisdom?
So I'll start with the second one first, because it is so important. And there are many, many different ways of giving back. And there's some, there's a school of thought, I had it rough, you're going to have it rough, go learn your own lessons. And I thought it was so hard for me. I would not want anyone else to go through this. So I have 1,000 people call me auntie. I am very intentional about mentoring across skills, across abilities, across social class, formalizing mentorship and development opportunities, back to Jamaica, doing lots and lots of work in the community with mostly girls, but just instilling that sense of you can get from this world what you wish, but there's skills you have to learn, and I will teach those to you, because you have to be really intentional about that. And I think it is because I didn't have it why I recognize how important it is and how much I don't and wouldn't want. And sort of like, I want the pain to end with me, right? Yeah, so that's really, 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 really an important, deliberate act. And no matter where you are, know that you have something to teach someone, right? And know that you have something to share. And mentorship doesn't have to be formalized. Often, and it's, we can even just doing it with our friends' children, because sometimes they'll have relationships with us that they won't have with their parents, but it's really important for them to know that there is that auntie, right, who will listen and who will have a conversation and who will share a skill, because that's mentorship as well, right? It's not just about the formal business. It's about mentorship is teaching young women how to be and how to live in this world as women across all of the dimensionalities that you have to live. What was the first question? My brain gone now. Oh, my North Stars. So, because lots of times I just had to do it, right? It's just like, okay, you're divorced, you got 2 kids, you got to figure this out, right? But the other part of the other North Star was a real, and this comes from the Black faith tradition that we all share, and I'm going to be very deliberate in saying we all share, as descendants of enslaved people. Without having that certainty that your tomorrow is going to be better than your yesterday, you curl up in a corner and you die. And so you're just like, okay, yesterday was rough, but and today ain't so hot, but tomorrow may be a little bit better.
Thank you, Annette, and thank you, everybody. I just want you to go forth into the rest of the conference knowing that you have no idea who you're going to meet today or at lunch, or just make those connections. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'd love to let's be friends. And reach out to everybody and just have so much fun the rest of this conference. Thanks so much for joining us.
A plug for LinkedIn. My son works on LinkedIn, so